All right, thank you for joining us on 24 Plus. I'm ABC24 anchor Pepper Baker. At any moment, Governor Bill Lee is expected to sign a bill that will give a state-appointed board control over Memphis-Shelby County schools. This is the end of a long battle over concerns about financial waste and too many students who are not performing academically. Tonight, we are hearing from an MSCS board member who will have to navigate that state intervention. That's District 7's Towanna Murphy. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Alongside Shelby County Republican Party Press Secretary Luke Cymbal. Thank you for being here as well. And then ABC24 political analyst Otis Sanford. So let's get straight to it. Commissioner Murphy, I want you to start off with just your reaction to the fast-paced movement of this legislation, this legislative session round, and just how it's impacting the district.
If you ask me, it was more of a desperate move. It was a desperate to take over. Mainly they were saying an intervention, because that's what we've been hearing all the time is intervention. But we know it's not an intervention. It is a takeover. Anytime you get up in the middle of your day to run a bill to Governor Bill Lee to sign, that's desperate. And in desperate times calls for desperate measures. I see that. We all see that. But to do something like that, to take over a school district that's targeted, they targeted Shelby County. We all know that they targeted us. So with having, and I'm gonna repeat it, because with having 9 managers sit over 9 elected officials, that is unconstitutional. That is voters enfranchising the voters. And what the voters chose, they chose us to sit there. They chose us to serve. And that's our jobs. It's not for y'all to take over or create an intervention.
Yeah, I don't think that
as you say you doing.
The legislation was desperate or even fast-paced at all. We knew this legislation was filed over a year ago, and it really was a Herculean effort on the part of, in particular, Senator Brent Taylor on the Senate side. I think the House was ready to vote on this legislation a year ago. The Senate was not there. Speaker McNally, Lieutenant Governor McNally was not there. And so for the past year, Senator Taylor has been going to and from Nashville. We met with the Houston superintendent where they had a similar state intervention happen in Texas. We brought chamber members. We flew to Nashville with chamber members and back in the same day to meet with Lieutenant Governor McNally. This was a major, major lift, particularly on the side of the Senate. This is something Representative Mark White in the House has been working on for years, but the House was ready a year ago, the Senate was not, and they got it done this year. And it's really, really important. Again, what I don't hear coming out of the school board is addressing the educational outcomes rather than a willingness to collaborate with these resources that are coming in, with these professionals that are going to be coming in to help the school system. We just hear pushback. And what I want to hear from the school district is we will be collaborative because we want to increase the proficiency rates that are far too low right now coming out of MSCS.
Now I'm going to piggyback off of that because we have level 5 schools. We have a 85% graduation rate. So you can't say that we're not focusing on literacy because we have. 75%
are not proficient in reading.
Well, I agree, but that starts in pre-K.
So can you just accept the help that's coming? Can you
no, I'm not going to accept any help that's coming over. First of all, we don't even know who these people are, and they all going to be Republicans. You can't come in from another state and tell us how to run our district. 70% black. You cannot do that.
Nearly $2 billion a year to the district. It certainly.
But you spent $6 billion to audit us.
Let's get Otis in.
Well,
this real quick.
let me. I'm going to be more of a moderate voice here. Okay. I've said before, and I'll say again, that all of this was precipitated by the decision of the Memphis-Shelby County School Board to fire Marie Fagans. And I've said then, and I'll say now, that was the wrong decision at that time. Should have had a little bit more consultation, intervention, opportunity for her to prove that she could do the job. But that didn't happen. That's when this happened. Luke says that Representative White has been working on this for years. I don't believe he's been working on taking over.
Improving educational outcomes for years. This has been kind of like his life's mission.
Okay, but improving educational outcomes and what happened here is a little different because this is pretty draconian to me. And I will say again, they said early on that this was an intervention. It's a takeover. Clearly it's a takeover.
Clearly.
They said on the House floor and the Senate floor just Wednesday that this is not only about Memphis-Shelby County schools, it's about the entire state. You will see, well, that's a fallacy. and really it's an outright lie, because it was all geared toward Memphis Shelby County schools, because even the criterias are targeted for Memphis Shelby County schools, because they're the only ones who meet all 6 of the criteria. And some of them are designed so that other schools can't reach the 4 of the 6 criteria.
Senator Wally, Paige Wally, senator just east of Shelby County, he covers Fayette and other counties just east. He mentioned, he said, I have struggling school districts in my district, and if they fall within this criteria and the state wants to come in and help, I hope that they welcome.
But they're not
open
as big
arms.
as Shelby
I hope
County.
that they welcome them with open arms.
They're not as big as us.
And I
Well,
haven't.
that goes to the need for an intervention, though.
But
that's not a need for
I haven't
intervention.
heard Paige Wally say that let's have the comptroller come in and audit those schools. That's,
They do. There's a yearly audit of schools.
it's
We
not
have
controllers
it's not a
audit.
controllers, because we have yearly audits.
They actually, senators on the floor today who were against, Senator London Lamar brought up other school districts that have issues, but the difference is those school districts are working with the state to solve those issues.
And the difference
We do
is
not have
those
it here with
schools,
MSCS.
those districts are not as big as Shelby County, and they
that
don't
goes
have
to
the funding that
need
we have.
to solve the problem. We have so many students here. If you want to fix educational outcomes in the state of Tennessee, you have to do it in Shelby
But no,
County.
allow us to fix us.
So let me
we don't
ask you
need
this.
anybody else to come fix us. Let us fix us.
You did mention collaboration, and what does that look like with the Oversight Board? Then, because the Oversight Board is going to have a lot of control over budgets, they're going to have
Sure.
control over contracts. The local elected officials will have to get nearly everything signed off, and the Oversight Board will be able to fire elected officials, people that voted
superintendent.
for them. So where does the collaboration, what does that look like as we move forward?
I don't know that the Oversight Board can fire elected officials. It can.
The school board members, they can fire the superintendent and then not
They
elected.
can fire the
I don't think they
superintendent,
can
but they
fire.
can't fire the
Okay.
elected
They
officials.
cannot fire the.
They
No,
can't
no,
fire
they
the
can't
school
fire
board.
us.
They can't fire the
And they can fire other people within
Other
the
people
school district.
within the
Right.
school
Well,
district.
Well, yeah, because they'll
not
be
the
looking
school
at
board.
contracting.
But the
and
only thing
things.
that we will be responsible for is anything $50,000 and under. They will have control of everything else that we have.
So what does collaboration look like? And Commissioner Murphy, I want you to say your part too. With this appointed board, the governor's about to probably sign it. What does it look like to have both sides working collaboratively?
First of all, we don't know who we're working with. We don't know who the 9 will be. And then we have 9 Republicans working over 9 elected Democrats.
Well, if you don't know who
If
they
you
are, how do
don't know how our district works, how could you tell us something when you don't know how our district works?
Well, 8 of the
You
9
can't bring
have to
anybody
be-
in.
Have to be within Shelby County. 1 can not be. That was added at the last minute. 1 cannot be. But again, I think that's because if we have a professional person who really knows their stuff when it comes to educating or turning school districts around. For example, if we want to bring somebody from Houston over who they've seen tremendous success down in Houston. Our model is we're modeling this legislation after Houston. Why wouldn't we want them to come in and share their experience?
But Dr.
and share
Richmond
their-
has done an amazing job with getting our district back on track. Why would we need anybody from the outside when we're actually doing the job?
The auditors did say that he has been very good to work with. They also said that others have not been good to work with. So hopefully it will be collaborative.
I want to touch.
So allow us to do the job.
Well, you're not. I mean,
Allow us to do
look
our
at what's
job.
been
We have
happening over
Dr.
the past
Richmond
4
here.
years. You haven't been doing your
I'm
job well.
new. I'm newly elected. And you have to give the new elected officials time to navigate through this district and work and get the job done right. We have Rod Richmond here,
these
who is
families-
doing, hold
these
on,
families
who is
who are
doing an
stuck in this
amazing
district don't have
job.
time.
Who is
They
doing
don't
an
have time.
amazing job? Why would we need a state takeover when we're doing the job correctly
Because these
this
students
time?
need to be
That's not on
educated.
us.
These
Okay,
students need to be
another
educated.
measure here that I really want to touch on Tuesday night, you all held a special called meeting and you all voted to basically allow outside counsel to come in and help you, or I guess counsel you on legal action against the state takeover intervention. However, minutes later, Senator Brent Taylor had a Facebook post that basically said Governor Bill Lee had signed off already on banning local education agencies from being able to use taxpayer money to hire outside or special counsel.
Yeah, they can't use taxpayer funds to sue the state for accountability measures. is what?
The state intervention
And
legislation.
it is state intervention.
Accountability measures.
Accountability measures. And you said accountability measures.
How did Brent Taylor know that they were going to vote on this special called meeting? Or how did this?
You know what?
move so
Because
fast?
he first of all, we put he called them, and then we have to put it out there. So anytime we do a special call meeting, we have to make sure the community knows about
So
it.
this amendment just
So
poof.
And so when he
signed.
heard about it, he put an APB on Governor Bill Lee, and he put a tracker on his phone and on his car, and found out where he was to rush the bill over to him to sign it. Desperate times, desperate
Are
measures,
you all
and
planning?
he was desperate.
Are you all planning a different plan? How are you getting around this?
Well, we're going to talk to our general counsel, and he will advise us from there.
Okay.
Let me tell you what I think will happen.
There you go, Otis.
And again, I'm not in any room here,
Right,
but what
right.
could happen here is they don't have to use taxpayer money. They could use, they could even do pro bono if lawyers wanted to come and take up this case. Or they can get people, supporters of the school system who have money to provide the funding for this. There was a lot of ways to get around this. The problem I have with the legislation that was rushed over to the governor is the definition of accountability. What is that? We don't know what that means. I think even Antonio Parkinson said that on the floor on Wednesday about how do you define accountability in order for this bill to be legal itself? There's just a lot of problems with this whole thing in terms of the collaboration that you asked about, Pepper. If there were really meaningful collaboration efforts early on, the lawmakers, and granted, they had conversations with some school board members, I know that, but they were bound and determined to make decisions here beyond collaborating with local people to make something that everybody could live with.
You all have final notes, so one each. Just keep that in mind. We have to wrap it up.
Because Luke is so desperate to talk about democracy, and I want to ask Luke, is this what democracy looked like?
Of course. I elected my state representatives who are allocating funds to the school district to make sure that those funds are being used effectively and in a responsible manner. Absolutely.
But let me ask you one question about that. All of the money that Memphis Shelby County Schools gets does not come directly from the state.
Over $1 billion.
Well,
about $1 billion.
Okay, but they shouldn't have all of the say-so.
No, they don't have all the say-so. They
when
shouldn't.
you still have, local taxpayers in Shelby County pay money that go to the schools from the Shelby County Commission. We also get federal dollars in here. So why is it necessary, or why do you think it's
Senator
right?
Taylor has already said he will be sending a copy of the audit to the House subcommittee on DOGE to look into the federal dollar.
But the audit is not
Doge involved?
Doge anybody, right?
Well, yeah,
But the audit is not complete.
Oh, my Lord.
But the audit is not completely done.
there's a lot.
It's a
That's a lot.
fourth.
Oh, Lord.
Right. The audit is not done. That's a fourth.
The focus
Luke,
needs to be,
it's a
the
fourth.
last word that I will say is the focus needs to be on the educational outcomes of our students, and that will help the students, our families in Shelby counties, our teachers in Shelby counties, and our community as a whole.
It is evident that this is going to happen. Governor Bill Lee is expected
is.
to sign it. So a lot of this will be to be continued, and we'll have to see how this all plays out. I'm sure we will have you both back as we
Right.
continue to
All
follow
right.
it. But thank you for watching, and please keep watching ABC24 for all of your Memphis Shelby County Schools state intervention coverage.